All right, so here is the final walkthrough of the Parting Glass. This is the full chord melody arrangement. And so I have added in the pickup notes, which we did not do before. We were just sort of starting in right on the downbeat, but the actual melody itself starts off with a couple of pickup notes where it basically goes 1, 2, 3, of all, and then that would be where we were starting before, but we're going to add those pickup notes in. So because you're ending up with an open set of strings here on the first downbeat, I usually just use my middle finger to grab the B to the A, and then sort of land my fingers into the E minor right as I'm hitting these two notes, so it works pretty nicely. 1, 2, 3. So overall it's pretty similar to what we've been doing. I've just sort of pulled back on some of the constant string of eighth notes to really emphasize the melody. And there are a couple spots where you kind of don't really need to play the full chord. So let's go back through. So right there for that little C, I'm just doing those two notes. I'm not holding down the higher up C, which you can obviously, it's not going to make any difference. And this C is another spot where I don't really hold down the full chord again, because we're starting off both with the B and the treble, and then I'm going to use my middle finger instead of on the E. I'm going to use it to grab that A there, so you don't really hit the E, so you can really just put down the bass note, and it still counts as a C chord because it's the root and the bass, and theoretically if you were singing it, you'd be playing the full C chord. So that change there on the D because the melody goes all the way down to that D, which is pretty low, and obviously that we could just play that single note, but I like to have that F sharp in the bass to give it a little bit more color, and then that also kind of draws the bass from the G back to the E minor, so you get a little bit of a walk down. And as I think I said in the audio part, I've got the fermatas over those that third beat in each of these measures. I could have written it out with sort of like an extra measure or so, or like a couple of extra beats, like made the measure not be even 4/4, but it's sort of kind of up to your interpretation. Like you can sort of hold that note for as long as you want. I think most of the time when you hear this, it is rubato, so you do kind of want to give it a little bit of a breath there. But yeah, you can sort of just interpret that as you will. Sometimes I sort of count it up myself and give it a couple of extra beats, so it'd be like 1, 2, 3, da da da. There. I think that's pretty similar to what we had in the old version. I'm just going to quickly look that over. Similar to either the old version or to the last line, so there shouldn't be too many surprises there. Going into the second half, let's see. So we did something similar in the last version, so this shouldn't be too many surprises, except for, of course, we've got that pickup of the da 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 da. So you've already seen those, no surprises there. It's just going to nice big sort of chord changes where we're doing the full chords. Sorry. So that C is a little bit weird, so to try to really grab that full melody, it's going to end up sort of being what you could think of this as a C6 chord, because we've got or an inverted A minor. Either way, you know, I'm thinking of it as a C because the C is in the bass, but it is also the same notes as the A minor chord. So so rather than doing that full C chord, I'm sort of clustering these fingers and putting the A, or the middle finger down on the A, the middle, or the index on the E, and then the ring finger on the C, and then lifting off that middle finger to do the G to the A. And then we've got that same D over F sharp to make sure that the melody goes all the way down to that low D, but we still have a nice bass note. I think that's really the only tricky part there. And then pickups again. Da, 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 similar to the last one. Let me just double check. Oh, I did take out a couple of those notes, but we've already talked about that in the last lines. Da, 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 yeah, now C, the change in the C is just to, again, sort of get that melody more in the bass notes, whereas before it was just sort of keeping some nice eighth notes going. And then this ending part, I'm just doing this to sort of fill in some time because the melody, that melody note really just hangs out there. So to just fill in the time, I threw in those treble notes. And it kind of doesn't really matter what the notes are exactly, but that's what I've got written out. And then, of course, you would also, if you're ending, you repeat it however many times, but then you would want to resolve back to the G chord, or you could also resolve to the E minor. Or either one works, either the resolving to the 1 or the 6 minor. You'll hear people do it both ways. So yeah, hopefully that is helpful, and let me know if you have any other questions.